everyone and welcome back to yet another video, and this week I thought I would talk about books and reading because it was something that I used to love to do as a child. I used to always have a book in my hand. I would finish a book within like a day if I was really enjoying it, and ever since I've made that transition from leaving school almost to now being almost 22, I found that I don't have a lot of time to read, or I don't make time to read a lot. I do feel like there's some reasons why that is. I feel like one of the reasons is that as a teenager and a child growing up, you have a very small kind of selection in the bookshop that you just go to and you pick one, you find one that you like. As you're an adult, you have the whole entire bookshop to kind of look at and find a book, and it kind of just overwhelms me slightly, and I'm like, how am I meant to pick up a book out of all of these? And it's really, really hard, I think, to do that. I mean, a lot of people manage it because a lot of people read books. But if you have any tips on how to narrow down your search within a bookshop, I would greatly appreciate them, and you can pop them down in the comments below. But I thought I would just talk a wee bit to you about the books that I've loved growing up, the last books that I've read, and of course we cannot miss Harry Potter because of Alan Rickman passing away yesterday. As I've already said, as a child growing up, I loved to read, and I really loved to read series of books. Now one of the first series that I kind of got into apart from Harry Potter was the Lemony Snicket, a series of unfortunate events. Now this is the first one here, and I have all 13 of them, but I loved this series of books, and if you haven't read it, I would recommend it for all ages. I think it's so much fun to read, and it really is unfortunate what happens to these kids, but I would thoroughly recommend it. I love them, and they're so pretty as well because they're all different colours, so when they're all stacked up they look really, really nice. Now I am trying to keep good care of these books because I do feel like they might be worth something one day, but I do have a tendency to eat or drink whilst I'm reading, so no doubt certain ones will have explosions of Coke or chocolate. Chocolate's a good one always to drop in a book because it melts so fast and you try and scrape it off and you just can't. But that is one of my all-time favourite books that I thought I would share with you. Now fiction isn't always the way to go. If you are into your kind of non-fiction, definitely Anne Frank, and you'll see by this it is all battered and torn at edges. I have read this quite a few times and I have absolutely loved it. The edges are all battered and grey, brown, but it is amazing. But it's just amazing to actually be able to kind of see what went on within that time and read the story behind it, and not just know that she was a girl who went into hiding and then she got caught and then she ended up in one of the horrific death camps. So if you haven't read it, I would honestly urge you to go pick it up and just sit down and read your way through it, because it's such an incredible story almost that you can't quite believe that happens to people, even though you learn about it in school and things like that. It's just an incredible thing that she was a young girl who probably had a great writing career ahead of her had she not had to go through this. Definitely I would urge you, if you haven't read it, to the next time you're in a bookshop or passing one, just go in and have a wee look if it's something that takes your fancy. One of the first books I remember reading as a child or getting read to me, and I was a big dancer growing up, and I loved dancing and everything about dancing and ballet. So my mum one day must have read me Ballet Shoes. Probably took her more than a day, to be honest, but it is an older book. Obviously this cover doesn't look like it because it's a newer version and it's nice and clean, and I try to keep it that way because I love it. Yeah, 1936 it was published, so it has been around for a while, but basically it's the story of 3 girls who end up getting adopted from different backgrounds and growing up and going to a dance school essentially, and they all, start to grow up and they begin to do other things and develop different interests. But I think it's just such a great story and I really do like it. Obviously I'm saying that a lot about all of these books, but you do if it's ones that you particularly like. So before I get on to the aforementioned Harry Potter series, I thought I would tell you a bit about the last book that I read, because obviously the ones I've went over so far are the books that I love to read as a child, but I have managed somehow to go into a bookstore and find about 3 books. One of them was Mary Poppins and the other 2 were from the teen section. But do not judge me, because one of the books that I'm about to tell you about was actually a sequel to one that I read growing up, which was only not that long ago, right? It was 2009 that I read the first book. So the last book that I read all the way through was Where She Went, and it was the sequel to If I Stay, which is this one here, which you might have heard of, If I Stay, because it was a film with Chloe Grace Moretz. I think that's her name. She's the one that's normally in all the creepy kind of thriller movies. But basically Where She Went is just picking up from where this one kind of drops off, but it kind of randomly picks up at around the point and you are reading the first chapter going, when is this set? Because you're kind of like, what has happened? And it does explain it further on. You just have to kind of keep going with it. It's not one that you can just pick up and immediately kind of drop back into the story. And I would urge you to give it a read. But we of course have to get on to Harry Potter. When you're talking about books, you cannot leave out this amazing series at all. Now obviously Alan Rickman passed away yesterday, which was really sad. There's not often, and I've been reading a lot of articles about Alan Rickman's portrayal of Snape, and a lot of people are saying obviously the Harry Potter books will always surpass the films in a different manner because they have all the background information, and the films do an excellent job of taking the books and making them into, you know, what they're made into, and it's amazing. A lot of people have said that Alan Rickman's portrayal of Snape is one of the only ones that kind of supersedes or matches the way that the book tells his story, which I definitely agree, and I always remember the first one. I mean, my version of reading this book is that my mum started to read it to me and I turned around to her and said, nah mum, you're alright, I'll read it myself, thanks. Whether that's true or not, I do not know, but that's what the story I think of, and that's what I'm sticking to. I loved reading from a very early age, and I think my mum quickly learned that. But these books are one of the best written series ever, I would say. There's so much in it, and it's incredible. Even reading through it now, I'm trying to talk and I just find myself trying to read at the same time, and it's probably not the best thing to try and do. I would say to anybody who has watched the films and you've not read the books for some absurd reason, if you can find a way to do it, whether that's through listening to them, because I know that I think it's Stephen Fry who does the audiobooks for them, and I can only imagine that that's amazing. If you do like reading but you're maybe just a slow reader, well, just take your time with it. I mean, the first one's not that big. I would definitely urge you to go and read them, especially now if it's taking Alan Rickman to pass and you love the character of Snape, to kind of see his journey throughout the books the way that they are in the films. I would definitely recommend it, and you can tell by this version that it's obviously, like, I think it was actually the first version because it's 1987. It is so battered and bruised and much loved, and I think that's a good sign of a good book when it has been well read by either a family or just by one person. You know, I think that that is a sign of a great story, and everybody knows the success of Harry Potter, but I can probably find myself, once I have a bit of time, probably after I finish uni, to go back this summer and reread these, because I haven't done it in a long time, and I feel like I'm going to get so much more out of it again now being an adult reading them, but also with the films being completed, and you know, there's so much now background information that J.K. Rowling's released on Harry Potter and the bits and pieces, so I would definitely recommend it. That is my piece though on Alan Rickman passing, which is very sad. A Harry Potter series of unfortunate events, non-fiction books. Like I say, if you do have any sort of tips on how to find a good book out of the vast amount in a bookshop, then I am all ears. So please let me know either down in the comments or on Twitter. Again, I'll post those links in the description of how you can get in touch with me. That is it for this week's video. It's probably a slightly longer one than the rest of them, but it just shows you when you love something and you just talk about it all the time. So I will see you next time, hopefully next week, and until then, enjoy. Have a look back through my previous videos if you really want to, it wouldn't go amiss. So I will see you then, bye!